Hi there, I'm Mike Coe, and I'm addressing your open interest. If you have a question or a comment you'd like me to address it, please send me a tweet at Michael_Coe, and I will try to answer it. So today on Fast Money, we were talking about an uptick in the open interest in puts in the ARKK ETF. And this was actually prompted by an earlier story about how Michael Burry, who runs the Scion Asset Management hedge fund and is probably best known from the movie The Big Short for betting against subprime mortgages, has recently been making some bearish bets against high-flying stocks like Tesla, and also notably on his 13F dated June 30th of this year against the ARKK ETF, ARKK. That's Cathie Wood's actively managed ETF, which among other things holds Tesla in it. In fact, it's the largest component of that ETF, representing over 10% of it. On that 13F, it indicated that he owns 2,355 puts on the ARKK ETF. Each put represents 100 shares. So that is essentially put options on 235,000 plus shares of the ARKK ETF. And that got me thinking, how many others have done the same thing? So we decided to take a quick look at the open interest in the puts on the ARKK ETF. And what we were able to find was that there is open interest right now, and so this backslide, I'm just going to pull this up, on there's about 815,000 put contracts. So that would represent 81.5 million shares. Now, if we take a look at the short interest in the stock, that is somewhat less than the total amount that is covered by the puts. The reason for this is probably a couple of things, but one of them is that when market makers have to hedge a put, they don't need to sell stock one up against every put that's purchased. And also, if some people bought put spreads, then the overall delta of those put positions would be somewhat reduced. Nevertheless, the total short interest in the stock works out to about 11% of the float or so. So, you know, one of the things you can do when you're thinking about how to make bearish bets on things like the ARKK ETF or high-flying stocks, whatever it is you're interested in, take a look at the open interest in the puts and see whether there's been an uptick. If you see a big uptick in the open interest and a lot of those trades that are going across the tape are big blocks, then you can basically surmise that there's some institutional market participants betting against the shares and using options to do it. Now, one quick point I would make, and this is something that we talk about often when you see very high short interest as well, is that there can sometimes be basically the opposite impact of what you would otherwise expect when people are making bearish bets. If you are inclined to follow along, bear in mind that people who have bearish bets on need to cover those bets at some point. And when they do, they may either have to sell those puts, which would cause the market makers to buy back their short equity positions, or they could hedge those positions themselves by buying stock against their long put positions, synthetically converting those puts either into straddles or long calls. So that would be another thing that could create some buying and support when you see big put open interest. So just because we see big bearish bets being made, that doesn't necessarily mean the stock is going lower, number one. And number two, when people go to unwind or hedge those positions, that can actually create some buying support, which kind of contrarily, one might argue, would mean that the stock doesn't fall as far. Nevertheless, I do think that it's interesting that we are seeing these bets, and we are seeing it from market participants who've made some fairly prescient bearish bets in the past. If you have a question or a comment, please send me a tweet at Michael_Coe, and I will try to answer your questions as well. If you liked the content, please consider subscribing to the Open Interest YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/open interest. And of course, you can also follow or tweet me at Michael_Coe, or go to our website, www.openinterest.pro. Thanks for watching.